Well, Fox has been in the helmet market for quite some time now, you know, in the V3, and then strangely went to the V4 and then back to the V3 model. It has been around also for quite some years, and it's been through a series of progression and evolution. What I'm holding in my hands now is the latest and greatest, and the top of the line, V3 MVRS, and we know the industry loves an acronym. MVRS, of course, stands for the Magnetic Visor Release System. And there's been quite a lot of focus on that this year. So essentially what they're doing is Fox has brought out this new top-of-the-line helmet, very much the same construction, composite construction of their previous V3s, but what they've done is they've added a first for the industry from a safety perspective, and that is really sort of changing the way that the actual visor actually fastens, you know, to the helmet itself. So to minimise the rotational forces on your head in a crash, what they've essentially done is replace those screws with 3 magnets. So, and what it does is allows, with enough sufficient force on an angle, allows the visor to break off. But the cool thing, in a lot of ways, is that it doesn't break the visor nor the screws that attach it. The other thing for 2018, what the Fox has done, previously they had 3 shell sizes across the 4 actual sizes. Now what they're doing is actually gone to 4 shell sizes. So, you know, and the key thing is that the medium and the large no longer share the same shell size. You actually get, so aside from adding a little bit of strength to those particular shells, so they work better with their liner, you actually, you know, having those 4 sort of shell sizes and 4 different EPS liner dimensions really gives you a much neater, more accurate fit. So what do we think of the thing? Well, we had it for a few months now. In a word, good, really good. It's a quality helmet, you know, as you'd expect for $650. So it's sort of that upper end of a kind of mid-range helmet. Cool thing, you know, it might be a small thing, but it comes in a bag, you know, and that's kind of Fox saying, yeah, this is a good helmet, look after it, keep it for more than a couple of months. It's a cool product that they put a lot of R&D into, and they have. The finish is cool. This particular helmet, you know, I love the fact you've got a sort of gloss and then a matte finish, and it's just a really cool looking lid. From a styling point of view, it's kind of interesting. It's almost like, you know, there's almost like a European look, you know, more sculpted. And this is, I guess, a bit more of a sort of, you know, angled, stout, boxy kind of looking helmet. You know, probably looks a little bit bigger, you know, than the average helmet. Personal preference, you know, as well. Interesting also that, you know, the chin piece is fairly tight. I guess there's no point in having a, you know, having a magnetic visor that busts off to reduce rotational energies if your chin piece sticks out here, because that's going to do almost exactly the same thing. Also very noticeable, really big eye port, so it gives you a super good peripheral vision and accommodates pretty much any goggle. Comfort, really comfortable. They put a lot of energy and effort, you know, into the liner. I think also the fact it comes with a MIP with that, you know, rotational slip plane, that also creates a little bit of extra comfort just when you're moving it around in your head, you know, it doesn't pinch, etc. So super comfortable, really nice padding, really nice finish, and super soft material that wicks sweat away particularly well. The other plus, and we alluded to it before, is the visor, and I guess it's a central piece, a central feature of what this thing does. So if you go to actually pull this visor, you can actually go pretty damn hard on the thing, in that sort of, in that plane, you know, whereas if you actually just go to lift the magnet off like that, it's actually super easy. So there's been a lot of time and energy and effort, obviously, in the R&D lab, figuring out what sort of force and at what sort of angle it requires to actually knock that visor off. And as you can see, it's not that easy. And the cool thing is, yeah, you don't have to go and buy another visor. There it is, and it's easy to get back on. Just line up the central magnet, first of all, and then the 2 side magnets going as well. You do have to be a little bit careful that it actually goes all the way back into place. And that's a super good function. When it comes to cleaning your helmet, always the fiddliest, worst bit is to get around here. That's always where roost and shit sticks. So actually to be able to just flick the visor off like I did and clean the thing properly is a really cool kind of, I guess, bonus feature in a lot of ways. Ventilation, 14 intake ports, 4 exhaust ports. I mean, ventilation's always a bit of one of those points that you see in the features with helmets. I'll say it's better than average, but you know, there's not too many helmets on the market that offer really good ventilation. What about on the downside? Well, you know, the downside of having that visor design is it's not adjustable. So, you know, for young punks who love it, you know, and it runs pretty high, the visor up there. You know, they've got some little support lugs underneath here. So the primary idea of that is if roosters are going to actually be hitting the thing, they don't want the magnets to give way. You know, so I guess for a sort of younger guys, racers who kind of love that vibe with a, you know, visor as high as it goes, cool. You know, if you're a sort of adventure-based guy or a trail rider who are really thinking about the practicalities of riding into a westerly sun in the afternoon and you can't adjust that visor, you know, that's something just sort of worth considering. And the other thing is, it's been interesting, there's been a lot of talk with desert races and, you know, people go and ride things like Fink and Hatter and you're doing 160, 170 kilometres an hour. A lot of those guys cut big chunks out of their visor, run them particularly low just because of the sheer virtue of the fact that when you're going those sort of speeds, the visor itself wants to lift your neck up. So I think probably a few of those guys would have reservations about using a visor, one that is, you know, sits so high, you know, itself, and you know, and two, can't be adjusted down and can potentially rip off if it gets a really big hit. So I guess that's a bit of a work in progress, and I'll send some of the other boys out to do 180 k's down the road and test what the visor does on their neck. The other thing, and again, it's not a biggie, you know, the cheek pads, they just snap out, you know, they're really effective. But I would have thought, you know, like I think it's a lost opportunity because in a lot of ways, you know, a helmet that's come onto the market, you know, pushing this magnetic visor technology would have been a really good idea to have magnetic cheek pads as well. Aside from being much more convenient, they're a kind of cool safety feature. So you never know, that might come next year from the MVRS Vox lid. I have had a couple little chips here on the matte section. I will say that I think, you know, just from a durability point of view, the matte paint isn't quite as tough as the sort of the gloss, or looks like almost a lacquered finish. And the other thing we're talking about, I mean, there's been so much talk about these helmets. We all saw Ken Roxon rocked up at Anaheim 1 and, you know, he had a bit of a moment, didn't look like he banged his helmet, and then the next time we cut to seeing Ken and he's riding around without a visor. So, of course, all the guys from the rival helmet companies are going like, oh, you know, Fox got it wrong, and, you know, they were kind of, they scurried to the boardroom and figured out what they were going to do with it. Anyway, it turns out, or at least the story we hear, is that the guy who painted Ken's helmet essentially with a custom paint job has effectively shimmed the helmet, shimmed the visor out a little bit and you know, compromised the integrity of the magnetic hold on that visor. So I guess that's just a sort of word of warning. If you're going to get one of these helmets, makes total sense, you know, have a talk to your helmet painter who should be onto it by rights, that he has to be really careful about doing that, because this is designed in a certain way where you obviously don't want it busting off too easily, and if you throw paint across the magnets, obviously, you know, that's going to do that. So I guess in summary, you know, at $650, it's you know, it's not a cheap helmet. You're paying a premium over the previous V3 and V4 helmets. But you know, if you've ever had a stinger or like a nerve pinch from whacking the ground, even a slow crash, when your visor's dug into the sand first, and I've had a few of them, you know, this helmet and its safety features really on your, you know, on the radar, and I think that small premium is something worth paying. But probably most importantly, that, you know, with the MIPS on the inside of the helmet and with the MVRS, the magnetic visor on the outside, essentially what this helmet's done is, you know, it comes with the design features both on the inside and outside that are designed to help manage those rotational forces and protect your brain. And you know, after all, that's a helmet's primary job. So fantastic thing. Looking forward to using it a bunch more, but very positive about the new Fox V3 MVRS.